Picture this, it's 1974, and the CIA has a plan that sounds like it was ripped straight from a sci fi movie. 3 miles down at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, there's a sunken Soviet nuclear submarine, a gold mine of enemy secrets. The Soviets have no idea where it is. The Americans found it. The only problem? It's at a depth nobody has ever even dreamed of salvaging from. The solution? Just build a gigantic, one of a kind ship disguised as a deep sea mining project for an eccentric billionaire, lower a massive mechanical claw, and snatch the entire submarine off the ocean floor in broad daylight. This is the story of Project Azorian, probably the most insane heist ever attempted. In the icy spring of 1968, with the Cold War at its absolute peak, the Soviet submarine K 129 just vanished. One minute it was sailing from its base in Kamchatka armed with three nuclear ballistic missiles. The next, nothing. When it missed a scheduled check in, the Soviet Navy went into a full blown panic. They threw a massive fleet of ships and planes into a desperate 2 month search, scouring over 1 million square miles of ocean. They found absolutely nothing. It was as if the Pacific had simply swallowed one of their most advanced weapons whole. But where the Soviets heard nothing but crushing silence, the United States heard a tiny whisper. The US Navy's sound surveillance system, a top secret network of underwater microphones or SOSUs, had picked up a strange acoustic event on March 8th, a muffled, deep sea explosion. By triangulating the sound, they narrowed the search area to a mere 5 nautical miles. It was an incredible piece of intelligence work. The Navy then sent in the USS Halibut, a submarine kitted out for deep sea spy missions, on a secret operation called Sand Dollar. For weeks, the Halibut crept along the seabed, towing an underwater vehicle packed with cameras. Then they saw it. There, at a mind boggling depth of 16,000 feet, that's 3 miles straight down, was the mangled wreck of the K 129. To put that in perspective, no one had ever tried to salvage anything from more than a fraction of that depth. For the CIA, this wreck wasn't just a sub, it was the ultimate prize. Inside that crumpled hull were Soviet nuclear warheads, crypto machines, and code books that could give the US an unbelievable edge in the Cold War. It could expose how the Soviets built their subs and how their sonar worked, letting the US track their entire fleet. The prize was just too good to pass up. The only question was, how in the world do you pull off a heist 3 miles under the sea? The CIA's answer was Project Azorian, a plan so wildly ambitious and expensive, it was almost laughable. The mission's price tag was a cool $800 million, which in today's money is about 5.1 billion. The idea itself was simple, but the execution was anything but. Build a huge ship, lower a giant claw, and grab the sub. The CIA's own analogy was like trying to stand on top of the Empire State Building and pick up a car on the street below using nothing but a long rope and a grappling hook. To pull this off without the Soviets noticing, they needed the perfect cover story. And who better to front an outlandish, ridiculously expensive project than the most famous and reclusive billionaire on the planet, Howard Hughes. With his reputation for bizarre and grand ventures, Hughes was the perfect cover. The official story was that his company, Global Marine Development, was building a revolutionary ship called the Hughes Glomar Explorer to mine precious manganese nodules from the deep ocean floor. The cover was so good it actually sparked a real worldwide interest in deep sea mining. Under this clever disguise, the 618-foot Glomar Explorer started to take shape. This wasn't just any ship, it was an engineering marvel built for one secret job. It featured a moon pool, a massive opening in the middle of the hull that could be flooded, allowing the captured piece of the sub to be lifted inside the ship, completely hidden from spy satellites and curious onlookers. And then there was the tool for the job, a colossal capture vehicle nicknamed Clementine. This was basically a giant remote controlled claw designed to be lowered on a 3 mile long pipe string, wrap itself around the submarine, and haul it back up. The whole thing was built in total secrecy, pieced together inside a huge submersible barge to hide it from prying eyes before being moved into the Glomar Explorer. Even most of the crew thought they were on a groundbreaking mining expedition. The stage was set for the deepest, most secretive recovery mission in history. On July 4, 1974, The Hughes Glomar Explorer arrived at the recovery site about 1,500 miles northwest of Hawaii. The air was thick with tension. Soviet ships were lurking nearby, understandably curious about this weird looking mining vessel, and they shadowed the operation the whole time. The American crew even stacked crates on the deck to block any potential helicopter landings. For over a month, the team worked around the clock. They started the slow, painstaking process of lowering Clementine, adding one 60-foot section of steel pipe after another, until the claw was dangling just above the silent wreck. The ship's state of the art dynamic positioning system fought the ocean currents, holding the massive vessel almost perfectly still. Then, with incredible precision, the operators guided the claw, closing its huge fingers around the front part of the K 129. They had it. The lift began. For days, the powerful hydraulics slowly reeled in the pipe, carefully hoisting the 1,750-ton prize from its deep sea grave. Everything was going exactly to plan. But then, disaster struck. About halfway to the surface, something went terribly wrong. A catastrophic mechanical failure caused several of the claw's steel fingers to snap. With a gut wrenching shudder, the main part of the submarine section, including the command center and missile silos, tore away and plunged back into the abyss. It was all gone. The mission's main targets, the nuclear missiles and the code room, were lost forever. Devastated, the crew had no choice but to keep lifting. All that was left in Clementine's broken grasp was a 40-foot piece of the submarine's bow. They had managed to raise a piece of their target, but it felt like a hollow victory. Inside the recovered bow section, the CIA found two nuclear tipped torpedoes and some cryptographic equipment. They also made a somber discovery: the remains of six Soviet sailors. In a quiet a gesture of respect, the crew of the Glomar Explorer held a formal military burial at sea and filmed the ceremony. Almost 2 decades later, in 1992, that footage was given to Russian President Boris Yeltsin, finally giving the sailors' families some closure. The CIA immediately started planning a second mission to go back for the rest of the sub, but their time and their luck had run out. In a completely separate incident, burglars had broken into Howard Hughes' offices back in June 1974 and stolen secret files, including one that connected the billionaire, the CIA, and the very mysterious ship. Slowly, the story started to leak. In February 1975, the Los Angeles Times published an article connecting the dots, and other papers quickly followed. The secret of Project Azorian was out. When reporters swarmed the CIA for answers, the agency gave a now legendary non answer: "We can neither confirm nor deny the existence of the information requested." This phrase became so famous, it's now a permanent part of spy jargon, known forever as the Glomar Response. With its cover blown, the White House had to cancel any more recovery attempts. The Soviets, now fully aware of what had happened, sent their own ships to guard the wreck site. The greatest heist in history was officially over. Project Azorian didn't get the CIA the code books or the nuclear missiles it was after. And yet, it was also a stunning success. The agency still sees it as one of the greatest intelligence operations of the Cold War, a powerful display of American ingenuity and sheer audacity. The project pushed engineering to its absolute limits. The innovations created for the Hughes Glomar Explorer, like its dynamic positioning and heavy lift systems, became foundational technologies for the modern deep sea oil drilling industry. The ship itself, later renamed the GSF Explorer, went on to have a long career in oil exploration. The story of Project Azorian is a wild reminder of the secret battles fought in the silent depths of the ocean. It was a multi-billion-dollar gamble played by spies, engineers, and one eccentric billionaire. A mission of incredible ambition, jaw dropping innovation, and ultimately heartbreaking failure. It remains one of the most audacious chapters in the history of espionage. If you thought this story of Cold War spycraft was as wild as we did, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more dives into history's most incredible secret missions. And let us know in the comments, what do you think? Was the $5.1 billion gamble of Project Azorian actually worth the risk? Thanks for watching.